Wednesday the 13th of February 2019, and I'm down in Norfolk once again, about to undertake a 7.5 mile circuit of Ringstead. It's an AA walk known as the Old Hunstantons. Breezy day, grey, pretty wet underfoot, but no rain forecast thankfully. About 3.5 hours for this walk I reckon. Initially following the Peddars Way, which links up with the Norfolk coast path, i.e. the English coast path now. Looking back towards the coast, not far from Hunstanton here, hence the name of the walk, the Old Hunstantons. It's about 11 o'clock now, bit of blue sky there. Former mill coming into view now. Interesting concrete inscription here. And I can hear skylarks amazingly somewhere on the skyline. Another view back towards the coastline and the shadow of Lincolnshire in the distance across the water there. I don't know if it's visible on this film, but it's certainly there. Lots of wildlife and birds around because plenty of scrub, field edges, margins, trees, hedges. Lots of local produce shops as well. There you have it, following the National Trail. And as you can see in the distance, somebody else out as well. In the village of Ringstead. There's the old mill. No sails. You get clearer view here. Probably a private residence now by the looks of it. So, as you may be able to gauge in the distance there, some hills here again in Norfolk. This walk reaches a maximum height of 130 foot, so I read. Probably over that way. Hunstanton Park. The mill from another angle, or former mill. Classic Norfolk scenery here really, lots of crops. Information here about the village sign being erected in '97. There is said sign. Incorporating the local stone, flint. Picnic table and information board about community paths close to the village sign. Interesting piece of information about the former rectory. Which is very close to the church, as you'd imagine. Great tit singing in the background merrily. There is Ringstead Church. I thought these were the steps in. Clearly they're not. So I'm not sure how you get in there. There's actually an entrance, a stone grit entrance, very close by to where I was stood. And there you can see, not sure the name of this church, but I'll soon find out. So as you can see here, it's called St Andrew's, Ringstead, just in the storm porch. Little inscription here dedicated to the benefactor of the gates, and I am able to get into this one, as is often the case up here in Norfolk and quieter villages. Wonderful. Even got refreshments over there. Amazing. Very Christian. Map of the churchyard. Very helpful. Self-explanatory. Bit of modern artwork, because the church is otherwise quite plain. There's the old organ. And because he was the rector, he gets a very decent position in the church, inside, out of the elements. As we mentioned the other week, richer you were, the better your location. This chap, whose name I cannot read, interpret, obviously he was a very wealthy person at the time. Got pride of place here. Looks like a religious man anyway. And what appears to be the only leaded window in the place. Henry VIII must have got to this church. The Fish family seem to be bigwigs round here. This one written in Latin. Excuse the foot. 1700s. And finally the view back. Lovely solid door there. The sandy man that reappears. So there are the gates benefacted by that lady mentioned a few minutes ago. I don't think benefacted is a verb, but donated will do. Plenty of great hit song around. So, in the churchyard, there he goes, Kestrel. Sorry, I meant Sparrowhawk, I think. Been building opposite the church as well. It's got the feel of an old school, perhaps. Although there is a chapel indicated on the map. It doesn't look very chapel-like to me, but I might be wrong. There's the answer. Right first time. So the chapel awaits us. Earlier, lots of this going on now in rural areas. Local produce in season. All good healthy stuff. Should keep us active after Brexit. Chapel Lane on my right. I wonder if that building up there is the chapel. Let's have a gander. Yeah, classic Methodist chapel, of which there are many up this way. Now a residence. Popular pastime up here as well. Typical Norfolk cottages, brick and flint. And the omnipresent great tits. Sign of the times. The old bakery is now a residence as well. Probably another holiday cottage there in the making. Second homers seem to be everywhere up here. That's why the villages are so quiet. The Gin Trap Inn, local pub. £275 for 2 nights. Typical of the area now, becoming very gentrified. My mate charges 85 quid a night down near Castleacre in the pig shed, which I highly recommend if you're up this way. Do a right here, as it's now pleasantly sunny. Wasn't expecting, I was expecting a grey day today, but there you go. Local weather variations, quite strong up here. Bit of road walking here, it's a little bit dodgy. Even on a Wednesday, it's quite busy. Now, there's no finger post here saying so, but that dog bin tells me something. So I'm assuming that this is the onward journey right here, would seem to be, per the map. There's a bit of a car park here, so it certainly must be right. Wonderful displays of snowdrops in there. It's like bluebells come early, except a different colour. Lovely. Wonderful display. It's funny, I only pick certain little patches of the land, so there must be something in the soil that encourages them there. So now into land managed by Norfolk Naturalists Trust. I wonder if that's still going. A couple of options here. Got one going to Ringstead Downs and one to the Chalk Pit and Woodland Garden. So let's consult the map here and get this right. I'll take the variant through the woods and hope it joins up with the other path, which is the correct version per my map later. Always more interesting to do the woodland variant, I find, as you can hear by the bird song already. Blue tit there, much more interesting. So here is the chalk pit, formerly mined, I should imagine, and there are a number of benches around and a picnic table over there, a couple of them. So it's a tad early for me, unfortunately, but they are possible. Here's actually an information panel here telling us a bit about the Ringstead chalk pit. Now the problem is, the sun's right behind me and I'm interfering with the text. Oh God. Anyway, not a lot I can do about that. Google it if you're interested in the Ringstead chalk pit. Once quarried for its chalk, made redundant in the early 70s. Now turned into... Oh, my shadow's making a right mess of this. Anyway, not a lot I can do. Yeah, now turned into good use. See, that probably wasn't, this probably wasn't around when the walk was written up, which is why they send you down the valley bit. Anyway, worth the divert. See, if I stand back and zoom in, no, it still doesn't work. Anyway, Ringstead chalk pit, very pleasant little place. I'll come and have a cup of tea halfway round, well, third of the way round the walk. Robins, blue tits, chaffinches, great tits, nice little backdrop. Atkins in full bloom here, or whatever the term is, full bud. Lovely to see. Just shows the seasons are marching on at a rapid rate of knots. Interesting ferns on that bank there, if anyone knows what they are. Omnipresent ivy and some kind of berry there on that bush. Not sure what that is. Another variation of ivy, perhaps, I don't know. Someone's made some form of bivouac here, and the lower path is now on my right down below, so you're not likely to get lost. Now hear the mewing of a buzzard over there somewhere. All the pigeons are scattering. Can't see him, mate. Ah, there you go. No, he's probably hidden behind the trees somewhere, or in them. Certainly calling. And there is one pigeon less. Looks like that's been done this morning, judging by the fresh blood there. So the old buzzard must have plucked him out. Can't imagine what else would have taken that. Very pleasant section of walking now, 12:15, through the fringe, or past the fringes of Hunstanton Hall. You know, robins singing merrily there somewhere. Lovely time of year this. It's good to hear the old song thrush re-emerge as well. Now, per the map, somewhere around about here there's some remnants of a church, but I can't see any unless they're in the woodland there, which is possible. That's a private track up there anyway. But anyway, yeah, no sight of the church remnants. Looking back from whence I've just come. Lovely downland here. Plenty of berries on this hawthorn, which is interesting. But then again, I guess the birds are finding food elsewhere. It hasn't been the coldest of winters, I must admit. We haven't had it yet, if we're going to get it. I've seen 3 or 4 birds of prey whilst walking down this valley. Not sure if they're the same species or what, but clearly good hunting grounds for them. There's the relic of an old New Holland there, I think. Superseded by the class. And there, amazingly, you do have the remnants of an old church stuck in a field. Amazing, isn't it? How settlements change over time. That would have served the local farm that I've just passed, and probably the hamlet that was here around it. Not any longer though. The tower over on the horizon is the boundary of Old Hunstanton, I believe. Find out later. That old chapel certainly looks eerie on the horizon now. Wind's picking up, as you may be able to detect. Again, no indication of the forward journey, but just in front of that gatehouse there, we continue left here, just by this little pond on my left, up towards Lodge Farm. Looking back at that pond, the map indicates that that is only 13 foot above sea level, so it shows how low it is around here now. This is probably the coast at one point, many years ago. Certainly quite sandy still underfoot. Very appropriate for the day before Valentine's Day. Lestrange Estate. So we did actually come down Lovers Lane. Another look at the map indicates that you don't go up as far as Lodge Farm. Cranes are in Old Hunstanton. New housing estate goes up. Another sign of the pressures of our population growth. Very pleasant section of greenway walking here, as you can hear in the background, possibly skylarks. Pleasant weather's brought them out. Yet more new houses. And the sea comes back into view. So there we go, getting near civilization and the rubbish starts reappearing. Another report being made now on Pathwatch. And that just takes the biscuit. be a recent thing. Anyway, I've reported it as a double backup. Another quiet lane walk now, just before I hit the next church, which will be my lunchtime stop, all being well. So the onward journey is actually left down that lane. I'm going to be turning right here, past these cottages, and having lunch in that very large looking church. Someone with a bit of humour there. Plenty of OAPs up here. There is actually an appealing bench there next to the duck pond, which is opposite the church. So, yeah, I'm sure you want me to come over there because you get some crumbs, won't you? In answer to that mallard. Interesting fact there. 15th century, eh? There is said cottage. Amazing. 600 years old. St. Mary the Virgin. It's a big old church. Lovely big storm porch. As you can see, seats outside it. Very interesting door. From the storm porch, you don't walk directly forward, but you come through this side door with that interesting leather strap above it. Anyway, plenty of lead windows in this place. Amazing, look at the ceiling. It's got to be 60 foot up there. I've actually got a dining area. First time I've been in a church, it's got an interior dining area. Wonderful. But I won't avail of that today, it's too nice outside. I will make use of the toilet though. That's very handy. Ancient woodwork. Wonderful. And here's the grave of another local dignitary, no doubt. Henricus Dei Clericus Filius. Very big church. It's on the edge of the hall at Hunstanton, so that's probably why. Wow, these Rood screens are 500 years old. They survived. Another one on the other side. Don't know if I can get a better image of it. There's flowers in the way. There you go. L'Estrange, the Estrange estate. So all the bigwigs are buried here in the church. Obviously Old Hunstanton Hall. Interesting how the surname has slightly changed over time. This is an earlier period, 1600s. Wow, look at that window. Incredible. This must have passed the Reformation by. Interesting how the sun's landed on St Mary the Virgin, just as I happen to be filming. How's that for an organ? Bit different to the one we saw earlier. Now by the 1800s, the surname's changed again, slightly. Can't read that one. Painting was done in 1927, given to the church in 2012. Richardson was the artist. Very little's changed, as we saw when I entered from the duck pond, which is where I think I'll be headed for lunch after all. Yep, an amazing place that is. Very pleasant surroundings. Lovely. Don't see any other seats at the back here though. Got the old vicarage cottage opposite. The entrance to the hall ahead of me. And that looks like the wall was built 773. Yeah, very pleasant lunchtime spot, 1:45. This seat in memory of Peter Lewis Crown, OBE. Interesting to know what he did. Thank you, sir. 2:15, lunch has been had. Very pleasant it was as well. And whilst having it, I was looking at the end of this building and the colour of the local stone. Hunstanton's famous for its coloured sand, and this seems to be very local material. Intermingled with flints. As I cross the busy A149, we have a sign here telling us that St Mary's is actually 14th century. Amazing. So as I say, across the main road here, down Waterworks Road. Grey heron skulking across the field there. Amazing, even at this distance he can see me. I'm on maximum range. So that's the golf course yonder, where we'll be walking shortly. Now walking between houses down Smugglers Lane, which says it all probably. Now crossing the golf course to get back onto the coast path. Guess that must be the clubhouse. Now back of the beach huts, Old Hunstanton. As you can see, now on the National Trail. I was on the Peddars Way earlier, now on the Norfolk coast path element of it, in amongst the dunes. Pretty tough walking on sand for the old hip actually, even though I'm 2 years post surgery. Still not my favourite surface to walk on. A bit like muddy, slippy, muddy surfaces. They're not brilliant either. Still, can't complain, doing well. So, 2:30. Here we have some wonderful views of the sands at Old Hunstanton anyway. Tide's out, looks like it's turning now and coming in. I can't turn left to look towards Hunstanton because the sun's against me. Hunstanton's one of the few places in the UK, if not the only place in the UK, that gets sun pretty much all day because it faces both east and west, being on the cusp of the wash. So I recall from school geography. Walking in amongst the sand dunes now, down on the beaches. Just look at all the fine bodies, etc, etc. Just a number of white top posts on this section of the walk, and I'm presuming that that indicates you're on the right track, because I think the path may actually be below me now in modern days. This was always the original path up here on the dunes, but let me see, get a shot of the path down below in a second. There is new fencing by the links, if you excuse the pun, and I think they've put or for those that wish to, they can now walk beside the golf links. Yeah, there's even benches down below, so clearly that can be a route that's taken as well. The old little egret there, busy at work. Amazing, I see these every day back home. Got a colony of them, so we're very lucky. There's another bird that's adapted to our climate. I've heard the oyster catcher as well. Lots of birds in amongst the grasses out there. What is that, a red shank? I'm going by his red legs. I'd say so. Nice walk this. So 1 minute you see buzzards inland, well not actually see them, and then next you're down on the coast. The elevated section eventually runs out of path really and gets too overgrown, so I'm back down on the lower level now. Then the lower level runs out of steam, so I'm back up in the dunes, which here is much clearer. Not sure what that is, in the middle of nowhere. Hardly a canteen, I would have thought. Onward journey ahead. Now take a right here, inland. Now leaving Holme Dunes, which is this lot. 46 miles to the beginning of Peddars Way. Now that's the first jet noise I've heard today. Right, this seems like deja vu, doesn't it? Another walk terminating at King's Lynn. I got back to the bus stop where I started from, and almost immediately, luckily for me, a bus turned up. The link service seems to be pretty good. That was a wonderful little walk, lots of mixture of variety and you know, coast, inland, downland, very lovely. So highly recommended that AA walk. About 7.5 miles in the rather lengthy time of 4 hours today. I seem to be slowing down, I don't know why, but used to do 10 mile in 4 hours, but don't know what's going on at the moment. Anyway, no rush, pleasant enough walk, and it helps me the next day because I'm not aching like I used to. So, lovely walk, till the next time.